Hi, everyone. I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for streaming with us. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is heading to Capitol Hill today to testify on the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. He's expected to face questions about the rapid collapse of the Afghan government and army to the Taliban and the effort to evacuate Americans and allies. Blinken is also expected to testify before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee tomorrow. Meanwhile, President Biden is heading to Idaho this morning and then on to California to survey wildfire damage in those states. The president is touting his administration's use of the Defense Production Act to make fire hoses to fight the wildfires in the West. He's also set to campaign for California Governor Gavin Newsom as he fights to keep his job in a recall election tomorrow. And a hurricane watch has been issued for the Texas coast as Tropical Storm Nicholas churns in the Gulf of Mexico. The winds from Nicholas are already nearing 70 miles per hour, and storm surge along the Texas coast could be as high as 5 feet. The big concern, though, is flooding as the storm moves slowly through Texas, dropping as much as a foot of rain in some areas. And millions of New York City kids are heading to their first day of school today in the largest district in the country. It comes as the FDA is cautioning parents about the vaccine for kids under 12. Meanwhile, almost 3/4 of eligible Americans have now taken at least one dose of a vaccine. Stephanie Ramos is at a school here in New York City with the latest.
This morning, the FDA announcing it won't cut corners when it comes to evaluating the use of COVID vaccinations for children, cautioning parents not to seek out vaccinations ahead of FDA approval, saying in part, children are not small adults. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Children's Hospital Association, more than 250,000 new COVID-19 cases were reported just in children 2 weeks ago, the highest number of weekly pediatric cases on record since the pandemic began. The Department of Health and Human Services says more than 2,500 children are currently hospitalized with COVID-19 nationwide. Pediatrician Dr. Brian Kornreich in Virginia says he's never seen anything like this.
It's exhausting all of us. And our biggest concern, of course, is that sick kids aren't getting the care they need.
According to the CDC, new data shows that unvaccinated people are 10 times more likely to be hospitalized and 11 times more likely to die from the virus than those who are fully vaccinated. Now, with President Biden doubling down on vaccines, mandating that businesses with more than 100 employees either require the shots or offer weekly COVID testing.
The bottom line, we're going to protect vaccinated workers from unvaccinated coworkers.
At least 19 Republican governors are condemning the move. At this hospital in upstate New York, so many employees have resigned over the state's mandatory vaccine policy that they have been forced to stop delivering babies. And if you're planning to travel by plane, be prepared to keep the mask on. TSA says they are increasing fines for people who violate the federal mask mandate from $500 to $1,000 for first-time offenders and up to $3,000 for second offenses. Diane.
All right, Stephanie Ramos in New York City. Thanks, Stephanie. And today, New York City starts enforcing its indoor vaccine requirement. The mandate states indoor businesses like theaters, restaurants, and gyms have to require proof of vaccination for customers to enter. It also means staff at those locations have to be vaccinated. Infectious disease specialist at South Shore Health and ABC News medical contributor Dr. Todd Ellerin is here with more on this. Dr. Ellerin, thanks for being here. What do you make of this policy, and what kind of an impact do you think it'll have?
You know, Diane, I think this policy is really important. Why? Because we have to be more aggressive right now rather than less aggressive. Delta, the most contagious variant to date. Winter's coming. We're going to be spending more time indoors. Half the country's still unvaccinated. A lot of kids can't get vaccinated, those that are under 12 at this point. So for all of these reasons, I think, you know, what the governor is issuing is very important. We have to double down right now.
Is it not enough if someone doesn't feel comfortable getting vaccinated for them to do masking and testing and take the other precautions?
These layers of safety that you just mentioned are additionally very important right now. But the vaccine is, you know, it's like a molecular shield for us, and we need that given how fierce Delta will likely be this coming winter. So the layers are important. Masking indoors is essential as well. We can't just have one point of defense. We need multiple points, but the vaccine is still critical at this point.
Now, millions of kids in New York City also started school today. It's the largest school district in the country. So what are you looking out for as the school year starts here?
Well, you know, what we've seen really around the world when schools are opening, of course, we are seeing more cases. But remember, just because we see more cases in kids doesn't mean that those transmissions are occurring in schools. In fact, if we see that most kids are masking while they're in school, then they're most likely, if they get infected, to be infected outside of the classrooms, in the community, where there's community transmission. Diane, we know in places where there's community transmission that we're going to see more cases. But as long as we maximize the number of kids vaccinated, and remember, when you're vaccinating your adolescents, you're also protecting the younger siblings that are in the household that can't get vaccinated at this point. So vaccine, indoor masking, that will help decrease the number of cases. But of course, as school opens up, we know we're going to see more cases.
And the FDA is making it clear it will not cut corners, and it's cautioning parents not to try to get kids under 12 vaccinated ahead of that pending FDA authorization. So what goes into that, and when do you think we'll see kids under 12 eligible?
What goes into the FDA's examination is an incredible lens of safety. Safety first. Remember, kids, while we're hearing about more kids getting infected, and of course there's even an increase in hospitalizations, kids ultimately do very well. So before they're going to authorize a vaccine in that 5 to 11 age range, they're going to really make sure that it's as safe as it has been in adults and the older adolescents. So they will not cut corners. When you hear the FDA give that stamp of authorization, you can trust it. And I'm expecting this before the end of the year.
All right. And according to the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Children's Hospital Association, we are now at the highest number of weekly pediatric cases on record since the pandemic started. So how do we get those numbers down, especially with the school year now underway for most, if not all, of the country?
Right. I mean, again, I think it takes those layers of safety that we talked about before, but we expect Delta is that contagious. Remember, there's 1,000 times more virus with this variant than in prior variants. So we know we're going to see more contagion, even in fully vaccinated kids. The important thing to remember is that kids overall do really well, but to maximize safety, we know what we have to do. We just have to roll up their sleeves as soon as the 11 and under get authorized this winter. You know, I really urge parents to take their kids and get the vaccine as soon as possible.
All right, Dr. Todd Ellerin, we appreciate it as always. Thank you.
You bet, Diane.
And law enforcement in South Carolina is now retracting a police report in the roadside shooting of Alex Murdaugh. The Murdaugh family has been the focus of national attention since the unsolved murders of wife Maggie and 22-year-old son Paul. Eva Pilgrim has more on this latest twist in the case.
This morning, conflicting reports leading to new details in that rural roadside shooting of a South Carolina lawyer from a prominent Lowcountry family. On September 4th, Alex Murdaugh called 911 shortly after 1:30 in the afternoon to report that he'd been shot on the side of a road. A family spokesperson saying Murdaugh pulled off due to a low tire light, that a male driver in a blue pickup truck drove past him and then came back asking if he was having car trouble. And that's when he was shot. He was airlifted to a hospital in Savannah, Georgia, with what authorities say was a superficial gunshot wound to the head. But the incident report released by the Hampton County Sheriff's Office initially checking the box, no visible injuries. Murdaugh's team pushing back, releasing new details about his injuries, saying he had entry and exit wounds, his skull fractured, leading authorities to correct that report, now saying there were visible injuries. Murdaugh's family has been the focus of national attention since the brutal unsolved murders of his wife Maggie and 22-year-old son Paul this past June.
Are they breathing?
No, ma'am. My wife and my son.
And what is your name?
My name is Alex Murdaugh. Please hurry. Neither one of them's moving.
Murdaugh calling 911 after finding their bodies. Both shot multiple times near the family's hunting lodge. His brothers speaking to us at the time saying their brother is searching for answers.
I can tell you he was willing and still is willing to do anything that's asked of him. He wants this solved.
Just one day before Alec Murdaugh said he was shot, the law firm that his family spent decades building announced it had reported to law enforcement and the state bar that Alec had stolen money from the firm. The South Carolina Supreme Court suspending his license.
And the confusion around this most recent shooting really just adding to the mystery around this story and this family, leaving a lot of people in the community asking what really happened and wondering if we will ever know. Diane.
All right, Eva Pilgrim, thanks for that. And the first trial in the college admissions bribery scandal that rocked the United States is underway. Opening statements begin today as two people stand accused of faking their children's athletic credentials to get them into the University of Southern California. A multitude of wealthy parents, including TV actresses Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin, have pleaded guilty to paying large sums of money to help get their kids into colleges. Attorney and legal analyst Dana Colwell is here and joins us now with more on all of this. Dana, what are the arguments you think we're going to hear from both legal teams in this case?
Well, the government is going to say that this was rife with fraud, that these parents knew that essentially they were bribing school officials, doctoring student resumes to get their kids, their wealthy, privileged kids, into good universities. So it's sort of a spoiled rich kid and very entitled parents type of prosecution. On the flip side, the defense is going to argue this is business as usual. Money is the lifeblood of these universities. They need money, they need donations from wealthy donors in order to provide, top flight education. And basically, this has been going on for decades and frankly, centuries in terms of how kids get into college through donations, through wealthy donors, who are expecting, some favorable treatment for their own children.
And how different are these cases from what you're talking about? Someone makes a huge donation, they name a building after them, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, their kid also gets in.
Exactly. I mean, that sort of is something that everybody knows happens. You can get in on grades, you can get in on achievement, or you can get in on donations. That happens over and over and over. The difference here is that bribes are involved. And when bribes are involved, then it becomes a question of fraud, wire fraud or mail fraud, conspiracy, et cetera. And that you're asking for extra at kids where you're bribing college officials to get your kid in.
Yeah, and it sounds like in some of these cases, they're at least accused of faking grades or faking credentials outright. We're going to be watching these cases very closely. Attorney Dana Cole, we appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Diane. Have a good day.
You too. And coming up, we are kicking off a new series this morning showcasing the many ways the U.S. has shown strength through difficult times. See the story of how communities in Louisiana are coming together after Ida when we return. Welcome back. ABC News is showcasing our country's strength and resilience in a new series called America Strong. Today, we take you to Louisiana, where residents are struggling to recover from Hurricane Ida. The Cajun Navy has been on the scene helping with the recovery effort since day one, coming together to aid with search and rescue, cleanup efforts, and feeding communities as they so frequently do after large storms. ABC's Phil Lipoff is in Destrehan, Louisiana, with more on this. Hi, Phil.
Diane, the need for something like the Cajun Navy has never been greater. I mean, take a look behind me. This is just one example of what is still left 2.5 weeks later. Bricks hurled off this building, crushing this car. Scenes like this all over the place in Louisiana. Down side streets like this, you'll see people are just completely have their lives out on the street. The Cajun Navy responding to this and so much else. Take a look at this video. This is Houma, Louisiana, yesterday. This is the Cajun Navy set up there. to help everybody with everything they need. I mean, everybody who comes in, they help. They have water there, they have diapers, they have tools that you can take home to your house to cut down trees, to clean out your house. They have served more than 600 pounds of jambalaya. The line of cars stretches all the way out to the boulevard through this parking lot, and it's been that way for 2 weeks. We first were introduced to the Cajun Navy 16 years ago in Katrina. We all saw them, a group of civilians riding around in boats, heading up to homes that were submerged in water, rescuing people off their roofs. That was then. 16 years later, their scope, they have grown so big that they can now help thousands of people in that parking lot and get out to places like where I am to help people who can't get to them. The director of the foundation, the Cajun Navy Foundation, tells me it's more like a social media network right now. He can't even tell how big it is. They have a Facebook page. You have a problem, you go onto that Facebook page, you give an address, you tell them where the need is, and they go to you. As for who volunteers, well, this is the great part. It's a revolving door of people getting help and people needing help. The folks who come up in that line that you just saw and ask for help and get the help, so many of them come back to stand in those lines again and help the people who are coming and need the help. That's the beauty of this. And they say they are ready for the next storm, the next disaster. We do have a tropical storm headed this way, and we are expected to get a lot of rain over the course of the next 2 days. Cajun Navy says it's ready. Diane?
All right, Phil Lipoff in Destrehan, Louisiana. We appreciate it, Phil. Thank you. And keep watching ABC throughout September for more of these amazing and inspiring stories making America strong. Coming up, as more products get embedded with computer chips and software, getting a repair isn't as easy as taking it to the local corner shop. Find out how that's impacting small businesses and what they're doing to fight back when we return. Welcome back. A growing movement called the Right to Repair is pushing for the ability to repair products without having to go through the manufacturer. Now lawmakers in Washington are weighing in. ABC's Elizabeth Schulze has more.
Just fill this form out.
In this small repair shop in Washington, D.C., 25-year-old Mohammed makes his living fixing phones.
What time do you guys open on Sunday?
But the job, he says, is getting harder thanks to big tech companies like Apple.
The cost is expensive, it's hard to get parts, and it's even impossible to repair certain things.
He says it's a major challenge to find, buy, and install replacement parts without going directly through Apple and paying a steep price. A criticism echoed by many other independent repair shop owners.
This is a $2,000 MacBook Pro laptop. This is the motherboard that goes into the machine. It's like the brain.
Louis Rossman fixes laptops and has amassed 1.6 million followers on YouTube as an activist for the right to repair.
This is not something that's unique to Apple, nor is it something that's unique to the laptop repair industry.
In industries ranging from electronics to farming to medical devices, the right to repair is gaining traction. The basic premise: it shouldn't be so hard to fix things when they're broken.
In simple terms, how would you describe the right to repair?
It's the idea that you bought it, you own it, it's yours to do whatever you want with, and you shouldn't have to ask permission from the prior owner, like the manufacturer, to be able to fix it.
It's a familiar concept when it comes to fixing old cars, furniture, or shoes. But as more products get embedded with computer chips and software, getting a repair isn't as easy as taking it to the local corner shop.
Anything that has a chip in it right now is probably impossible to repair without using the manufacturer.
Critics say some companies are setting up unnecessary roadblocks, and regulators are taking note. In a May report to Congress, the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, warned manufacturers are making repairs harder, like using adhesives that make parts difficult to replace, limiting the availability of spare parts, or making software unavailable. The result can mean higher costs for consumers, less competition, and more environmental waste.
Many companies now force us to only have a few set of choices when we want to get something fixed. And their hope sometimes is that we won't fix it at all and we'll just buy a new device or piece of equipment altogether.
In July, President Biden signed a wide-ranging executive order urging the FTC to promote the right to repair. The agency unanimously voted later that month to step up its enforcement against companies that impose illegal repair restrictions. And the FTC is also taking a broader stance against restrictive repair policies.
There's actually an old law on the books from 40 years ago that prevents manufacturers from tying certain repair services for products covered by warranties.
The right to repair hits close to home for Walter Schweitzer, who owns a small family farm in Montana.
I need my equipment to work when it's time to work.
2 years ago, Schweitzer's tractor shut down in the middle of the critical 2-week harvest season. A local John Deere dealer said it could take a month to get it fixed. There was no way for Schweitzer to do the repair himself.
So I asked him, can I borrow the troubleshooting software so I can figure out the problem? No. Okay, well, can I rent it? No. All right, well, I'll buy this dang stuff so I can figure out my own problem. No, we don't sell it. I was being held hostage by the equipment manufacturer, not allowing me to repair my own equipment.
And as a result, could have affected your whole harvest, your whole crop, really.
Absolutely.
Schweitzer turned to his 40-year-old tractor to get the harvest done. And when it was time to buy new equipment,
I just bought a tractor a few months ago, and I bought an older tractor just so I could avoid the technology that requires a computer to fix.
In a statement to ABC News, John Deere said it's committed to ensuring its customers have access to the tools, software, parts, and manuals to operate and repair their equipment safely. Schweitzer doesn't blame his dealer, saying the overall lack of competition in the farm equipment market is leading to higher prices and bottlenecks in repairs.
There's 3 major equipment manufacturers that manufacture 90% of the equipment American farmers use.
Farm equipment manufacturers and dealers say they're committed to making maintenance, diagnostic, and repair information more accessible, adding some right to repair efforts are overly broad and can risk safety, durability, and environmental sustainability of products. Tech lobbyists and trade groups staunchly oppose right to repair laws under consideration in at least 27 states.
More than half of states are now considering legislation on the right to repair. Is this something that really should be stopped? This clearly has bipartisan support.
The bills would undermine billions of dollars of intellectual property interests by mandating that manufacturers reveal those trade secrets to anyone who hangs up a shingle and says that they do repairs.
Apple says it's expanding options for repairs around the world, pointing to its independent repair program, which aims to help qualifying companies get access to its parts. And the company says customers should have convenient access to safe and reliable repair services.
Consumers, as well as businesses and hospitals and public schools and everybody else, all need reasonable assurance that those they trust to repair their products will do so safely, securely, and correctly.
Why does the right to repair matter to really every American, not just someone trying to buy a new phone or getting their phone fixed or someone with a tractor that's broken?
I think the pandemic taught us that when we face disruptions, we need to have an economy that lets us spring back into action. But when companies block us from fixing our own equipment or our own medical devices or our own home appliances, that just makes it tougher for us to bounce back.
Elizabeth Schulze, ABC News, Washington.
All right, our thanks to Elizabeth Schulze for that report. And that does it for this newscast. I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for joining us. And remember, ABC News Live is here for you all day with the latest news, context, and analysis. Stay safe and have a great day.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.